Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeremiah, if you can't read your bulletin. And I'm connected to this congregation in many ancillary ways. But today I am pleased to be here helping you sing. So, hey, we're on page 188 in your hymnal. And it's Come, Come Wherever You Are, or Whoever You Are. One more time together. Next week the canon's going to be awesome, though. I have a feeling this song's going to be stuck in your head. And next week we're going to canon this thing into oblivion. Here we go. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, houses of caravan of despair. Come yet again, come.
All right. Thank you, Jeremiah. Thank you for being our guest musician today, and I think next week as well. I'll tell you, we weren't sure if you were doing that opening number as a solo or a group. And so we didn't do the slide for the words. So, but next week, if we're going to do it next week, we'll have the words up there. We're all kind of spoiled. We're spoiled on the slides, and we will have
on your bookmarks as well.
Very good, and we will have the words for the other hymns today. But we're glad you're all here today. Obviously, we've got in the summertime we've got folks traveling, including Rev. Renee out for the next few weeks. But, hey, we're here, and I'm glad you're here. We're excited to be here. Excited about a little rain last night. The World Cup has not gone exactly the way I wanted it to go, but here's the good news. There's another World Cup in which we dominate. It's next year. It's the Women's World Cup, and USA has won that, I think, 4 times. We've won the Gold Cup. I'm looking to Laura. Is that right? Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, no matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. No matter your age, the tint or color of your skin, your marital status, your gender, your sexual orientation, everyone is welcome here. And we're glad you chose to be with us. We are a religious tradition that values freedom in religious thought and journey. My name, by the way, is Gene Van Zant. I've been a member here for a long time, 25 plus years, and hope to be for 25 or so more. If you are here for the first time in person, we would invite you to fill out a little white card on the seat back in front of you, mainly to get your email, to put on our email list. And if you're joining us online, welcome. There are the cameras up there. Welcome. And if this is one of your first times and you're not on the email list, you can go to our website, uufayetteville.org, and get signed up that way. But we're glad everyone is here. There will be a time later in our service of sharing joys and concerns. It's a tradition we have. People come up and drop stones to symbolize what's on their hearts. If you do have something you want to share, there's a yellow card. Thank you, Diane, my lovely assistant, Diane Vigilant. And you can bring it up at that time. And those online can share it in the comments. Those will be public. If you're doing it a card here in person, you can mark if you don't want it read publicly, but just shared with the leadership. David, our AV wizard, can help if you have hearing issues, hearing assistance. Children, I don't see any children. All right, I'm going to skip that part. Cell phones, everyone has a phone. Make sure it's silent. I double-checked mine just now. We're very happy to have one of our own speaking for us, Dane Wagner. Katie has spoken here, I think twice, yes. And Dane, I think this is your first time to speak for us. I'm very excited. If you don't know Dane and Katie, you should get to know them. They've been members, at least, we were trying to figure out, at least 2 years, a couple years or longer, and look forward. The topic is so timely, healing hearts instead of burning bridges. We do live in such a time of division, politically and otherwise, and we tend to find ourselves getting dragged down. I do, at least, dragged down into the mud of negativity. And so I'm excited about this focus on the positive. Fawn is going to light our chalice as we begin.
Good morning, y'all. As I light the chalice, if you'd like to speak the words it's in your order of service and on the screen. Love
is the spirit of this community, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and truth, and to help one another. Thus do we covenant together.
Bring my entire situation up here. Good morning.
Good morning.
It seems like every other day I wake up with a new ache or pain. I'm sure many of you are familiar. I'm at that age where I'm never sure whether new pains are something I should be doing something about or just learning to live with. Recently, I've been waking up 4 to 5 times a night with back or hip pain. My primary care doctor suggested I stretch my hamstring. I've been doing that for a few weeks and really no improvement besides having a slightly longer hamstring. My wonderful wife has been suggesting I go to a physical therapist for some time. When my right kneecap started to go a little sideways on me, a couple of weeks ago, I finally gave in and found one. It didn't hurt, just a little weird. For a little background, I injured my left foot several times in a row, developed a little bit of tendonitis on this left side, about in my left heel, about 8 to 10 years ago, developed a little bit of a limp for a while. I figured either my left foot had never fully healed, or I'd never quite gotten rid of my limp. After I explained this to my PT, she ran me through a few movements. She had me lean to the left, and I said, okay, no problem, I got this. And then she said, all right, lean to the right. I went, oh! I had about half the mobility on one side compared to the other. I didn't even realize it. I thought I was leaning really far over. I knew one side was a little more sensitive than the other, but I had no idea how bad it actually was. What's more, she said the original tendonitis probably wasn't due to the foot injuries. It was probably due to the weakness in my back. I worked a desk job for 15 years, so I suppose that's not too surprising. The limp I had developed, combined with the weakness in my back, had caused tightness all along my right side and a serious lack of flexibility on my left. What my body was instinctively doing to avoid further injury and reduce pain had caused some pretty serious issues of its own. Now, I've been doing the PT recommended stretches and hip and back strengthening exercises the past couple of weeks. I've been astonished at the changes. minor pains I had been dealing with for years that I assumed I just really needed to live with started to disappear. Some of the original pain, whispers of that pain in my left heel that I thought I had gotten rid of, actually came back and then went away again with a little more exercise. Secondary pains in my hips and lower back migrated to the center and up my back and then went away completely as I developed better core muscle control. The tension in my right leg eased in a way that stretching it directly had never accomplished. Until I went to an expert who could look at my symptoms objectively, I never would have realized the scope of the problem. I certainly never would have figured out how to solve it on my own. What I thought was working was, in fact, making the problem worse. To me, the immediate symptoms, the tightness in my right leg and an overly mobile kneecap, the core problem, my back weakness, and the things I needed to do to address the problem, lean to the right, appeared mostly unrelated. The fact that my PT could diagnose me in less than 5 minutes and tell me exactly how to fix the issue seemed like magic. When we encounter pain or difficulty, we automatically adjust our behavior in an attempt to reduce that pain. These are called adaptive behaviors. We are adapting to the situation at hand. This is normal, healthy, it's required. When my foot was injured, I limped to avoid further injury and avoid pain. That's fine for a few days. But if we don't properly treat the injury, if we just ignore it, more or less do what comes naturally, we sometimes continue these behaviors long after they stop providing any real benefit. In my case, I assumed the original injury wasn't all that bad, that any doctor that I went to would just give me ibuprofen and send me back home, tell me to stop complaining. The pain in my left foot continued on and off between 2 and 3 years. I kept on limping. When an adaptive behavior carries on longer than it's needed, when they have unwanted side effects like unbalancing or weakening the body, they can become maladaptive behaviors. A maladaptive behavior is any behavior that does harm without actually improving the problem at hand. Continuing to limp out of habit after an injury has healed is maladaptive. Limping doesn't heal the original injury. It certainly doesn't do anything to help the rest of the body. The longer the maladaptive it creates more problems like back and joint pain. The longer the maladaptive behavior continues, the more of a habit it becomes, and the harder it is to stop, and the worse the problems get. Unfortunately, over our lives, our injuries are not just physical. Trauma exists in many forms. Maladaptive behaviors are not limited to physical injuries. We can and often do develop maladaptive behaviors in response to emotional injuries as well. Now, before I get into the real meat of things, I'd like to mention that I'm going to talk about some pretty dark stuff. I think Gene was overly generous when he said I was going to focus on the bright things. We'll get there. There's brightness in this too. But I'm going to talk about family-induced and childhood trauma, among other things. I won't be going into any detail, but I will be inviting you to introspect pretty deeply. I encourage you, as always, to do whatever you need to do to keep yourself safe and secure. And I will remind you that whoever you are among friends here. As we sing our opening hymn together and listen to our Time for All Ages book, I invite you to think about the ways that you have responded, intentionally and unintentionally, to emotional injuries in your life, and how those responses have helped and how they've hurt.
All right, we're on 131 in the hymnal, Love Will Guide Us. Love will guide us, He Peace has dried us, hope inside us. You lead the way on the road from free to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can read from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace has dried us. Hope inside us. You lead the way on the road from free to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Good morning. I am Diane Vigent. I am a member of the Chalice team. I am the chair of the membership team, and I'm also a raging granny. And Dane, I feel you. I've been fighting back injury since June 20th. Today's story is for every child who has ever had to leave their home behind. It was inspired by the words of Joe Cox, who said, "We have more in common than that which divides us." Someone Just Like You by Helen Docherty and David Roberts. Somewhere in this world, there is someone just like you who finds the same things funny, who laughs the way you do. You may speak a different language. You may have a different name. On the outside, you look different, but your feelings are the same. The same things make you giggle. The same things make you mad. The same things make you curious. The same things make you sad. The same things make you happy. The same things make you scared. But you'd both feel so much better if you knew that someone cared. If this someone needed shelter or a place to sleep at night, if they'd had to leave their home because they didn't want to fight, if you saw them feeling sad because they left their friends behind, would you be the one to hug them when they needed someone kind? Would you share the things you had with them to help them feel at home? Would you find them things they needed, like a toothbrush and a comb? Would you listen to their story? Would you tell them yours as well? Would you talk about the things you love, a book, a favorite smell? Would you help them to feel safe again and chase their fears away? Would you find a way to make them smile when skies were looking gray? Somewhere in this world, there is someone just like you. Perhaps one day you'll meet them. They would love to meet you too.
What a beautiful story. Thank you for picking it and for reading it. One of our traditions here is to take a little time each Sunday, most Sundays, and come forward, if it's not required, but if you want to drop one or more stones symbolizing a joy, a concern, a milestone. And if you have something you want read, to fill out one of those yellow cards, and you can hand it to me or write it in the comments on Facebook. So we invite you, Diane's going to help me with the bowl of stones. We invite you to come forward at this time. David, do we have any shared online today, joys or concerns? Okay. I'm sure there are always others, joys and concerns on our hearts that are not shared for whatever reason. Let's take, well, first of all, I forgot, let's go ahead and drop some more stones for concerns that weren't maybe publicly shared, that we're facing, concerns also in the coming weeks. Some maybe we know are coming up, others will come at us as surprises. And let's take 60 seconds to reflect. If you pray, to pray, but to reflect on these that have been shared and those that were not shared as well. Let's all take a deep breath, shall we? It's time in our service for the offertory. One of the privileges of our fellowship is that we get to provide support for our activities here, our staff, our facilities. Generosity is one of the spiritual values that we recognize as central. So we invite you now to participate in our offering as our ushers come forward and pass the basket.
Love makes a bridge from heart to heart and to head. Love finds a way where laws are blind and freedom banned. Love breaks the walls of language, gender, class, and age. Love gives us wings to slit the bars of every cage. Love makes a bridge. Love makes a bridge. Love lifts the hopes that false and fear have beaten down. Love breaks the chains and gives us strength to stand our ground. Love lifts the bridge. Love
lifts the hopes. Love rings the bells of wanted birth and wedding day. Love guides the hands that promise more than words can say. Love rings the bells. Love rings the bells. Love makes a bridge that winds may shake, yet not destroy. Love carries faith through life and death to endless joy. Love makes a bridge. Love makes a bridge.
Thank you. We're going to sing that together at the end.
Thank you, Jeremiah. As I mentioned, maladaptive behaviors exist for a reason. We adopt them because they make us feel better, if only briefly. They're designed to meet a need, and those unmet needs can be painful. Sometimes we will do anything we can to avoid that pain. We might, for instance, pretend the pain doesn't exist, hoping it'll go away on its own. We might distract ourselves with anything that will keep our attention. Or we might think, oh, if this pain will just go away, I'll take better care of my body, I promise. We might even strike out in anger. In each case, though, we're trying to protect an injury, a wound. When the wound we experience, the trauma we experience, is emotional rather than physical, we do exactly the same thing. As a result of complex trauma, and complex trauma is trauma that happens over a long period of time as opposed to a specific instance. As a result of complex trauma, we might begin to withdraw from situations that feel threatening. If the trauma was caused by a person, we might always try to stay on people's good sides, flattering and cajoling, to make sure they never turn against us. We might start a fight with anybody that reminds us of that original trauma. If the pain was bad enough, we will generally do anything that we can to avoid experiencing it again. Now, those of you paying close attention may notice a pattern. These are all stress responses. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Not that fawn. That's how I've always heard it described. Just like limping due to an injury, they temporarily help us avoid further pain. Just like limping, we do these things instinctually, without conscious thought. Just like limping, especially if the original trauma went on for long enough, they can become habit. The longer we do them, the harder the habit is to break. Just like limping, they can cause serious long-term damage. We can also become sensitized to pain. If we re-injure a body part over and over, we become overly protective of it. And for good reason. We can even begin to anticipate pain, reacting even before the danger appears. And in some cases, even if there's no danger at all. That makes sense. The cost of being wrong about danger is minimal. But the cost of being wrong about safety can be devastating. It's easy and natural to become overly protective when a part of us has experienced trauma over and over. Now, if you combine these things, combine sensitization and anticipation of pain with maladaptive stress responses, you get very bad behavior indeed. In even mild cases, you get things like defensiveness, argumentativeness, breakdowns in communication. You get attention-seeking, manipulation, and guilt tripping. You also see people shut down unexpectedly in social situations. Remember, these are behaviors in response to real or imagined pain. From the outside observer, especially to those who don't know you well, these behaviors can seem to come out of nowhere. We call the situations that activate these maladaptive behaviors triggers. Triggers just remind us of previous pain, and they threaten us with future pain. Now, I think we can all agree already that defensiveness, manipulation, shutting down, these are all generally undesirable behaviors. Certainly, I've never encountered a partner who enjoyed it when I did those things. But the thing about these maladaptive behaviors is there's really no limit to how bad they can get. With flight, we see deadbeat parents and spouses. With fawning and freezing, we see people neglect their own needs and stay in dangerous, abusive relationships indefinitely. And we see no end of examples with fight. From the urge to fight danger, we get abusers. We get both school shootings and we get people harassing those harmed by school shootings. People like Alex Jones. Speaking of Alex Jones, somewhere mixed in here with several different ingredients is toxic masculinity. For men steeped in toxic masculinity, the constant threat to your ego can only be fought by performing masculinity as hard as you can, even making up new, ridiculous ways to be more masculine than anyone has ever been before. All of these things happen because people live in fear of past trauma, of repeated pain in their past. And they are all, each and every one, maladaptive behaviors. Designed to fend off psychic pain, they do nothing to heal the original wound, to actually repair the damage caused by the original injury. And every one of these behaviors can have absolutely catastrophic consequences to the people around them. Now, fortunately, we can unlearn these behaviors, ideally before they become catastrophic, when they're just making people kind of uncomfortable and annoyed. But these are behaviors we've created ourselves. They are our subconscious and emotional mind's best effort when confronted with real or perceived dangers. These are behaviors that evolved in our ancestors over millions of years to aid our survival. And our subconscious can be extremely persuasive. If our feelings are strong enough, we will find a way to rationalize what our emotional mind wants us to do. As somebody who really values logic and reason, that was a hard truth to learn. My own conscious reasoning mind, my own logical thought patterns can be distorted beyond recognition by strong feelings without me even noticing it's happening. Now, most of you here today know how to escape this cycle. In fact, I started the opening words with the answer. You go to a therapist. You need to talk to somebody outside of your own mind who is unaffected by your own biases and beliefs, who can see you as you truly are and not how you think you are, for better or worse, to give you guidance. Now, I know many of you have experience with therapy. Surprisingly, go to therapy isn't the biggest point I want you to take away today. Mainly because I think most of you already know. I think nearly everyone here today has experience at least looking within themselves, trying to improve themselves, examining the behaviors that aren't working for them and the reasons behind them. I think all of us here are at least a little familiar with the skeletons in our closets and how scary those skeletons can be. Crucially, I think you all know the kinds of things that past trauma can make us do and how hard it is to resist those maladaptive behaviors. No, what I want you to walk away with today is to remember that outside of these walls, pretty much everybody that you meet, inside them too, everybody that you meet has similar skeletons in their closet, has prior complex trauma, and have adopted maladaptive behaviors at some point in their past. Unfortunately, the people that we come in most conflict with have often not examined them. In the book, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents, which I heavily recommend, Dr. Lindsay Gibson writes that there are two classes of responses to emotional pain. We can turn inward, looking at how we can change ourselves. We learn to work harder, please more people, and often feel like we're at fault when bad things happen. Dr. Gibson calls people who tend to take this approach internalizers. I think most of the people here today are primarily internalizers. Where internalizers counter hardship by looking inward, externalizers look outward, finding fault in others. The mantra of the internalizer is, how can I do better for others? The mantra of the externalizer is, how can others do better for me? When you see others trying to force their will or their way of life on others, you are probably seeing the maladaptive behavior of an externalizer. Now, that sounds dismissive. Don't fall into the trap of feeling superior because, one, we put a name on it, and two, internalizers usually go to therapy and externalizers usually don't. As I'm sure many of you know all too well, not everybody can afford therapy in this country, especially when they need it the most. And when you grow up in a culture that prioritizes loyalty over truth and obedience over morality, when you grow up in a society that threatens you for showing emotion, that ridicules you for growth, it's hard to be an internalizer. But fundamentally, externalizers are just like us. Just like us, externalizers started off believing the things they were told when they were young. What you are witnessing in some of their hateful actions is an emotional response to pain. In many cases, you are witnessing the results of a wound inflicted repeatedly on a child, often by the very people who are supposed to be nurturing and protecting them. For people haunted by unaddressed childhood trauma, people whose only recourse against emotional pain is to blame others, their behavior looks a lot like that of a wounded animal. Deprived of support and the healing wisdom of professionals, those childhood wounds have festered on into adulthood, resulting in exactly the kinds of behaviors you would expect to see from any wounded animal. You see a creature who treats any threat as existential, who will inflict any amount of damage on others if it means they might survive. So what do you do with a dangerous wounded animal? Do you try to intimidate it into behaving? Do you scream in its face, throw a brick through its window? Do you call it names, try to injure it further in the belief that somehow your threat is bigger than the one it's already facing? If you're strong, you might get it to cower, but that animal will still hate you and will strike out at you at the first chance it gets. All right, maybe fighting a wounded animal isn't the answer. When confronted with an injured animal, even a very smart one, do you try to reason with it? Convince it that in the heat of the moment, with its body full of adrenaline and its mind full of pain and danger, that it should think more clearly. Of course not. Nor can you pretend that it's not really that dangerous, surprised and offended over and over every time it tries to reach out and hurt you. But these are some of the things that we do outside of these walls. By we here, I mean pretty much all humans, but in particular, I mean a lot of people who consider themselves progressive. who consider themselves liberal. I can't much blame people. For one, I've done a lot of these things myself. I haven't done the brick thing.
Not yet.
Facebook, I did not admit to that. These are natural stress responses. We feel threatened and we react. We will always feel the motivation to react like this. It's hardwired into our brains. Those behaviors helped our ancestors survive. But these behaviors are also, in today's society, maladaptive behaviors. You might temporarily avoid being attacked by this wounded animal, but you're not addressing the problem, the animal's injury, in any meaningful way. If you want to keep yourself safe, the people that you love safe, and you also want to help, the only other option is to treat it, to try and heal it. Either way, your first priority is to keep yourself safe. This is a dangerous animal. We have to take this seriously. I like to say when you encounter a snake in the woods, my mom was deathly afraid of snakes. Hysterical, to use a very outdated term. But when you encounter a snake in the woods, you don't run away screaming. That doesn't help you, and it doesn't help the snake. You probably fall in a hole. That's how I've injured my leg. But you do need to take care to avoid it. You treat it with respect and awareness. You expect a wounded animal to strike out, even when you're trying to help it. And don't be offended by its behavior. Can you imagine a veterinarian that got defensive every time an injured dog or cat snapped at it? I don't think they'd be in the business very long. No, the animal is only reacting according to its nature and its circumstances. It's doing what its body and mind are telling it to do, are demanding that it do. And its behavior has almost nothing to do with you or what you're trying to accomplish. If you watch a wounded animal closely, you can usually tell what it's protecting. You have to pay close attention. Cats and humans both guard their injuries closely and will try to mask their pain to prevent you from making it worse. Ignore their direct action, which is trying to eviscerate anything that comes close. But if you watch closely enough, and to unwind this analogy, if you listen to what a person that you disagree with is saying and really try to understand that perspective, to imagine the kind of experience that must have produced that perspective. If you can imagine how this person must perceive the world, however different it is from your own experience, to have that perspective and to hold those opinions, you may glimpse the true wound that is making this creature behave this way. I had an encounter with a gentleman having lunch down on West Dixon in between classes at the University of Arkansas. He was sitting with another man talking loudly and disparagingly about government handouts and how nobody gets a free ride and how everybody should have to work for a living. On my way out the door, I told him that every human deserved safety and security from hunger and illness, even if they never produced a thing. If he didn't want me butting in, he shouldn't have been so loud. But it turns out he jumped at the opportunity, wanted to discuss it further. I had a half hour to kill, so for the first time since I was drunk at a college party, I decided to discuss politics with a stranger who I disagreed with. We talked for a while. He made a lot of the typical points, but I listened and took his point seriously. Tried to counter them respectfully, calmly, rationally, despite my racing heart. I tried to understand his motives for feeling this way. I always returned to what I believe. Every human deserves safety and security from hunger and illness, regardless of what they can produce. And that is absolutely achievable without undue hardship to those that can and do choose to produce things. As we talked, I think we got more comfortable, especially once we realized neither person was going to bite the other person's head off. In explaining his viewpoint, he eventually started to talk about his personal experiences. It turns out that his family emigrated from Korea shortly after the Korean War, and presumably had him some few years later. And I thought, oh, imagine a family living in a country torn apart by a proxy war between two zealots of economic philosophy, the aggressively capitalist U.S. and the aggressively communist USSR. This family fled to the capitalist country, the U.S., with almost nothing to their name, and then tried to raise a child. This man was never going to have any other opinion. Work was survival to his family when he was growing up. Neither he nor his family ever had the option at any point to stop working, to stop laboring for others in order to eat, to survive. And because that was his reality, he thought it was only fair that others lived the same way. At this point, I stopped him. I told him I was sorry that that was the situation he and his family endured. That wasn't fair for anybody. Certainly not fair for a kid. I told him that kind of experience, that kind of childhood, is exactly what I think we should be preventing. He had no answer for me. He suddenly remembered he's left his lunch partner inside during this entire 30-minute conversation. We wrapped it up amicably over a couple more minutes. He never gave any indication that he agreed with my ideas, and he certainly never admitted to changing his mind. But I like to think I made an impact on that guy. I know I certainly left the conversation proud of myself, feeling like I had done a tiny bit of good in the world. And that's a rare win in conversations like this. Underneath every conservative talking point that I've heard, there is a true fear that presses on a true wound. When someone is angry about the unhoused getting assistance, about welfare abuse, they might be really angry that they didn't get what they needed when they needed it. When someone is angry they got surprised about which bathroom someone used, they're not afraid of trans people. They don't know any trans people, or they would know that the trans people that you meet are some of the least threatening people I've ever met. Someone who reevaluates their own gender is not an externalizer. No, people who think they are afraid of trans people in bathrooms are afraid of cis men trespassing in safe spaces for women. I don't have to tell you what kind of danger that is. When someone is angry about immigrants taking their jobs, they're really afraid that the companies they work for will drop them like a hot potato with no pension as soon as cheaper labor comes along. They're afraid they're not good enough to provide for their families. They're afraid that their family will starve if they're not employed. These are all completely valid fears, many of which I think we share on some level. All of these are attitudes, are positions that do nothing to alleviate that fear. Not truly. Every one of these talking points is an unexamined emotional reaction to pain. They are trying to prevent pain for themselves and for their families. Don't get me wrong, they are misinformed. If they had the emotional resilience and support and time to deeply introspect, I honestly think that a lot of people in this country would realize how badly they've been behaving. I really think that the way to convince the most people to be kinder, to be less fearful, is not to badger them into it. It's to show them the kindness, the understanding, and the patience that we have learned that we have to show ourselves in order to truly grow. Stand as you're willing and able.
Yes, as the Spirit leads.
Love makes a bridge from heart to heart and hand to hand. Love finds a way when laws are blind and freedom bend. Love makes a bridge.
Yeah, let's stay with verse 1.
Love makes a bridge from heart to heart and hand to hand. Love finds a way where laws are blind and freedom bend. Love makes a bridge. Love breaks the walls of language, gender, class, and age. Love gives us wings to slip the bars of every gate. Love breaks the walls.
How about verse 3?
Love lifts the hope that force and fear have beaten down. Love breaks the chains and gives us strength to stand our ground. Love lifts the hopes. Love rings the bells of wanted birth and wedding day. Love guides the hands that promise more than words can say. Love rings the bells. Love makes a bridge that winds may shake yet not destroy. Love carries faith through life and death to endless joy. Love makes a bridge. Love makes a bridge.
One more.
Love makes a bridge.
That was a lovely message. Thank you. If you would like to say the words on the screen with me as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Thank you, Dane. Wow, what a great message. So many layers. Some of them need to be followed up. And so we might have to have you continue some of those lines of thought. And thank you, Jeremiah, for playing so beautifully and leading us in our music. So The men's group, I think, had its inaugural meeting this past week, but it's going to meet second Thursday of each month. Joseph Armendariz, I did not see Joseph here, but I'm so glad he's doing this. You know, you touched on toxic masculinity, which actually, when I was on the Chalice team, we talked about having that as a service and a sermon. No one's willing to touch it, though. You'll do it. All right. It is, you know, men, it's a complicated subject.
It is.
Right? And there are extremes, but I think it's very much needed, particularly for young boys growing up today who are hearing really different messages and kind of confused or struggling to find out what does it mean to be a man. What does it mean anything? But anyway, I'm glad we have a healthy, hopefully, approach, I think so, to that. So, second Thursday of each month, 7 p.m. here at UUFF. We have many other groups that meet. There's a women's group. There are other groups that meet. And so if you are wanting to plug in, I hope you'll find a place to plug in beyond what we do here Sunday morning and find others you can connect with. Thanks again for being here. We hope you'll hang around and visit afterwards. We've got some refreshments, and I hope you have a wonderful day, wonderful week, and some closing words, and then our song.
I'll bend your ear for just a moment longer. I hope to make it worth it. If you do decide, or sometimes in the case of family, have to engage with some of these people out here that you fundamentally disagree with, I urge you to remember a few things. Number one, take care of yourself. Take care of your own needs first, ideally before you engage. If you remember that you owe them nothing and you need nothing from them, they cannot surprise you, offend you, or hurt your feelings unless you let them. They'll probably say things that'll shock you. They may try to verbally hurt or insult you. They may not engage at all, and they're unlikely to change their stance during the conversation. Remember that their behavior and its true motivations, the trauma that underlies their behavior, may not have a connection that's visible to you. The biggest impact that you can have, especially with people who are very stubborn, is not in getting them to admit fault during the conversation. It is in the way those people remember the conversation. During their commute, in their shower, as they're falling asleep, they will remember that somebody with different opinions saw them, acknowledged their pain, and hopefully made them feel a little safer. Once they can feel safe, a lot of these positions will seem as silly and childish to them as they do to you. But above all, I urge you to remember that these are people. They're humans who have lived an entire life up to this point. They have hopes and dreams, guilts and worries. They have dysfunctional families just like us. And I'm not talking about true sociopaths. A sociopath doesn't care what you think, and they're extremely rare. If the person you're engaging with is ever angry or defensive, they're not sociopaths. They're full-blown humans with a full-lived experience capable of empathy. Nor are most of these people stupid, uncaring, or in any way subhuman. Even if you disagree with them, don't treat them as less. Treat them like their experience and pain matters. Because they do, even if the way they are trying to manage that pain is not helpful. And speak to that pain if you can, if you have the opportunity. Outlawing trans people will not reduce the incidence of sexual violence and abuse. Fighting immigration will not make you feel like a successful provider, nor will it make your employer treat you with respect or dignity. Not wearing a mask will not save you or your relatives from sickness or our broken healthcare system. And outlawing abortion will not fix anyone's infertility or keep your own children safe. The only impact these emotional, reactive policies can have is in perpetuating the trauma of the people who advocate for them. forcing more people to experience the same pain that they're afraid of. The gentleman I talked to on Dixon felt like it was not fair that some people have to endure hardship when others don't. In some sense, all progress is unfair to previous generations. Those that came before did not have some of the benefits of those in future generations. That's true. But rather than imposing past pain on future generations, we should instead mourn that we didn't do better in the past, that we haven't always been good to people. We must acknowledge that pain so we can finally stop passing it on. As you go about the rest of your week, above all, again, keep yourself safe and whole, and if you get the opportunity, see what healing you can bring into the world. Thanks.